The attorney's role in the real estate transaction is an interesting one. We do a little bit of everything, but largely what we do is we coordinate all the moving parts in a closing, and there are a lot. The first thing we do usually is we get contacted by a real estate agent who gives us a contract. The attorney in our office reviews that contract, makes sure we understand the terms, that they make sense, that the closing date's reasonable. At that point, we open a file on behalf of the client. We then begin the research on the title history if they're buying the property. And we will go back 40 years worth of history on that property to make sure that the seller selling the property owns all of it, that they don't have a lien against them, they don't have a judgment, there's not an easement running through it, or if there is, everybody's aware of it. You can buy anything you want as long as you understand what you're buying. That title work will come in, it'll be reviewed by a paralegal. I will then review it as a closing attorney to make sure that we agree. So you have two different sets of eyes on your title history. We'll prepare a title insurance binder, which is what the lender looks at to decide, hey, do I want a loan on this property? If the attorney's agreeing to ensure that I'll have a good mortgage on the property, then I'll loan on it. If the attorney says, well, you're going to have a mortgage, but there's somebody else who has an interest, they probably won't loan on it. We'll communicate and coordinate with the lender and with the agent. If the client desires to have a survey, and I always encourage that they do, we can help coordinate with the surveyor. We'll receive the termite inspection on the property to make sure the property hasn't been eaten completely up. We will receive from the lender, usually will order and have us delivered to us an insurance policy that says the buyer's going to be insured and therefore the lender protected after we close. And then the paralegal and the attorney will coordinate with the lender to make sure that everything that needs to be paid is paid, that real estate agents get paid, that by the seller typically, that if there are HOA dues, that they are current. And if they need to be prorated, because we're closing in the middle of a month, that they're prorated. That taxes are current, and typically they'll be prorated because we'll be in the middle of a year when we do a closing. Basically, that everything that needs to get paid is paid, and it's all on one piece of paper called a settlement statement or a closing disclosure, and that the bank and the buyer and the seller and the attorney all agree that those numbers are correct. Once all that's coordinated, we'll schedule the closing, have the buyer come to the office, and as a closing attorney, I'll sit down with the client and go through all of the documents the bank requires. And it's a pretty intimidating stack sometimes. Fortunately, I've seen all of the documents enough times that I usually can make the client very comfortable with everything they're signing. I can explain, why are we signing this? What does this document do? And once that's done, we'll go back to the county. We'll make sure nothing changed on the title history, that the seller didn't get a judgment against them. Nothing changed. And then we'll record those documents. Once those documents are recorded, our client owns the property. Our lender has a lien on it if there's a mortgage. And then we'll return all the documents to the clients, including a final title insurance policy that ensures they own the property. So it's kind of it's an intricate dance between the lender and the seller, the buyer, the agents, everybody involved in the transaction. And the closing attorney and their paralegal tends to be the hub around which it all revolves.